Hi guys, welcome back. Right, it's time to talk about the Eagles. And in this video, I want to talk about if or not they are just in it for the money these days, and are they just a cover band? I've brought on a guest to chat about it, my good pal Mark Clower. Enjoy.
Hi guys, welcome back. So it's time to talk about the Eagles. Now, I've made plenty of videos on this channel about this band before in the past, as you know. Be that about Don Henley or Glenn Frey's son Deacon joining after Glenn's death. I mean, I love this band. I adore them, you know that. But in this video, I want to tackle a bit of a difficult subject for fans of this band in general. When is enough enough? They've said they're on their farewell tour, but look, that could go on for forever. Glenn is dead, Randy is dead, and Bernie and Don Felder are out in the cold for different reasons, which we might get into a little bit here. The question is this just a cover band at this point? Is this just for money? Now, look, I've brought on a guest to chat about these topics, my good pal, Mark Clower. Mark, how are you, mate? I haven't had you on the channel since last year, so it's great to see you.
Good morning, brother. Yeah, glad to be with you.
Now, Mark, we talk all the time about rock music. Usually it's about harder music than the Eagles, or if it's not, usually it's about ballads or whatever when we talk over on Lee Spencer's channel over on Iridium Rock and Metal Reviews. We did some Journey videos last year. So this is a little bit slower even again than Journey. It's that country rock kind of thing. I want to calm it all down a little bit and just get an insight into the Eagles. I'll start with this. I think their music kind of did evolve over time. You know, you kind of started with that pure kind of country rock sound when you had, Glenn and Don, Bernie Leadon in the band, Randy Meisner, but then they bring in the likes of a Joe Walsh, to kind of just, really just bring it up a little bit, kind of maybe give them a little bit of an edge, maybe. Then a Don Felder comes on board, and their sound is almost kind of a tale of two halves, really. It's kind of like you have that early real core version of them, but then as they go on, they change and they evolve. My question is, though, they've evolved to such a point now that, as I mentioned up the top, Randy left the band and they brought in Timothy B. Schmidt, and that was great, in the 80s. Don Felder is out in the cold. Glenn's gone and Glenn's son is in now. At what point they're playing the Venetian, which is a residency there. I've seen the Eagles tons of times with that, and I've even seen them with Vince Gill in the band now. He's been in the band since 2017. But at what point it's almost like Jenga. At what point do you take out too many blocks that it just suddenly isn't the band anymore? At what point is it just for the money?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely the case now. When you first posed that question to me, is it time for them to retire? Basically, my initial thought was yes, it is, because I vividly remember making that very statement I think it was to my wife when Glenn Frey passed. God, it's been 9 years now. It's hard to believe.
It's crazy.
Seems like it was just a couple of years ago. I had to go back and look. It was 2016, so it's
crazy.
Been, almost a decade since he's been gone. But I vividly remember when he passed. I remember telling my wife, I said, "Well, that's the end of the Eagles." I said, "There's no way they can forge ahead without him. I mean, you can lose certain members, but when it's one of the two founders that controls the whole enterprise, for lack of a better term, that is the Eagles. I mean, I honestly thought they were done at that point, because let's be honest, going back to 2005, they were on their farewell tour.
Yeah. That's 20 years ago.
Yeah. So they announced they were retiring, that far back. So I thought surely this would be the end of them. And, lo and behold, they see there's still money to be made. So they're going to, continue to forge ahead. My initial thought was, I don't really want any part of that. It's hard for me to say. I don't want to be hypocritical, because let's be honest, some of the bands that I love, like Black Sabbath, there was a point in time where Tony Iommi was the only original member, and that was some of my favorite music they ever did.
Fair point.
I'm not going to be hypocritical and
fair point
and say that yeah, they should definitely retire. If there are people that are still willing to pay to see them more power to them. They were here a few years ago. I want to say 2, maybe 3 years ago now. And I started to go because I knew that would be my last opportunity. But honestly, I just said to myself, I don't want to pay. I think the cheapest tickets were well over $200.
Expensive. It is an expensive show.
And, for me and the wife to go, it would have been $500 to go see the Eagles, what's left of the Eagles.
Yeah.
And I really just, at this point, I really don't want to see them without Glenn Frey. Now, that being said, if they would make peace with Felder and bring him back, I think that would add some stability, credibility to what they're doing.
That's a great call.
Because he was such an integral part, especially of that, that harder sound that they went into. No flies.
He wrote the riff. He wrote the riff for Hotel California.
Yeah,
that's his riff.
He's a brilliant. He's my favorite musician in the band,
right,
by far.
You've surprised me with that. I thought you would have liked Joe Walsh better, simply as a musician.
He's just he's a clown.
He is funny.
I'm not a big fan of his voice.
It's not his voice. His playing more of.
It's hilarious to watch him on stage. But Felder was definitely my favorite. I think he was by far the most talented guitarist in the band.
And he's looking younger than ever now. He's aging backwards. So he's still spry, still fit and ready. Yeah.
Honestly, you got think about it. You got one original member and you got 2 classic members. That's a lot more than some bands. Let's use Foreigner as an example, who at this point have no original members.
We've been through that one.
Yeah, I actually went on record saying I was okay with them carrying on as long as Mick Jones was, still on stage.
Yeah.
But now that he's not even on stage except on rare occasions, they are truly a cover band, and I don't support that. But
I witch on that. Without getting too much off topic, I lost complete faith in Foreigner when I went to see them on a package deal with a couple of other bands, and Mick Jones came out for one song and walked off, and I went, I'm done. I'm so done. But yeah, I mean, where do you? And I know you don't want to be hypocritical, and you're right. I've been tougher, particularly when we've talked about this before on bands like you mentioned them, like Foreigner before. I've been a little bit easier on Journey, with swapping out lead singers and stuff, but. Where do you stand on kind of stuff like maybe a degree of nepotism with the likes of Glenn's son Deacon coming in, who it's a weird one with Deacon Frey on stage because Deacon looks so like his dad in his prime. He wears the jersey and has the hair. He looks like his dad in the 70s, except for the handlebar mustache. He's his dad, right? But looks so much younger than everyone else on stage. Where do you stand kind of with nepotism like that? Maybe I have seen them with Deacon, and he does do a professional good job, but is it a bit of a gimmick or a bit of a stunt or a good fit for the band?
I think just the fact that he's blood adds a little bit of credibility to it. I don't have anything against Vince Gill. I'm not a country music fan at all.
Yeah.
I don't have anything against him. I know he's a very talented, player and singer and the whole 9 yards. But to me, he just does not fit with the Eagles. I know people will say, well, you have to see him, with him live to appreciate what he can do. And I give you that. Like I said, I've never seen him. And at this point, I don't really have any desire to see him for what it would cost to see him.
Yeah.
At least with Deacon, like I said, him being blood, he brings a little bit of credibility to the picture. I've listened or watched a couple of videos. I was surprised. He really doesn't sound anything like his dad.
No, he doesn't. And they don't give him all his dad's songs either. Vince sings a lot of the Glenn songs too. So they don't even give him a lot of his dad's songs, but he looks the part.
Yeah, he definitely looks the part. But like I said, I don't want to hear anybody other than Glenn Frey sing Tequila Sunrise. That's probably my favorite song that he sang. And just to hear anybody else, whether it's his son or Vince Gill or whoever, I don't know, I don't really want to see that or hear that.
They've some really competent players. I've seen them live. You mentioned Vince Gill there. I've seen them with Vince, and Dad and I go and see the Eagles every time they're in town. We've done so for 20 years now. Every time they're in town, be it in a stadium, be it in an indoor arena. And the last time we saw them, Vince was with them and Deacon was with them. And you're watching them, and this is the point of this video. This is the crux of it. I'm watching them. They're competent. They're playing Eagles songs back at me. Don's on stage. Even classic members, you might say, which is a good way of putting it. Likes of Timothy B. Schmidt, who replaced Randy Meisner. I kind of accepted. I really liked Randy in the band because Randy sang probably one of my favorite songs of all time. Take it to the limit.
Yeah.
But I accept Timothy in the band. So when Timothy's standing on stage now, I see him as a legacy, as you call it, or a classic member of the band. That's cool.
Yes.
But with Vince, I'm watching it, and it's almost a bit. He's really talented, good singer, good player, nice guy from what I've seen in interviews. But I'm still got this self-awareness that I'm watching Vince Gill sing Eagles songs back at me.
Right. Yeah, it's not the Eagles. I don't. He's a stand-in. And you mentioned. I want to bring this back up again. This was the show they did in Melbourne, I think in 2005, and I watched it the other day after we talked about doing this. First time I watched it in several years.
Yeah,
and I watched it back just to kind of refresh my memory. The guitarist that they haven't even given member status, and maybe he doesn't want it. That's been with them ever since Felder left is Stuart Smith is his name. He's a phenomenal player, and he does justice to the songs, like you say.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they haven't made him a member. Maybe he doesn't want to be a member. I don't know. It's kind of like with Bon Jovi, Hugh McDonald that replaced Alec John Such. I don't think they ever made him an official member, but he's been with them forever now. Same thing with this guy. He's been with
you got to pay him.
Yeah. He's basically a hired gun, but he definitely does the songs justice. But one of the things that cracked me up about watching this, there's a couple of scenes where they show the whole stage. There are more people on that stage that are not Eagles than are Eagles. As far as musicians, I mean, you got multiple drummers, multiple keyboard players, you got the horn section in the back, and the actual Eagles are very small in number now.
Don Henley actually being the only original member.
Yeah. So it's
original.
It's kind of a strange point in time for the band because they went from being a gang of 5 to there's only 3 of them left now as far as active members.
Well, it's interesting you say that because they do put. You mentioned the hired guns. You mentioned all the different drummers and all sorts that go on stage as a spectacle. To see the Eagles on stage, it's still a terrific show. They don't scrimp. Sure. So they might be trying to make a lot of money, but they don't scrimp on the. Now, Eagles have never been a big production band. You're not getting a whole lot of big lights and screens and lasers. That's not what you're getting with the Eagles. But what you do get is just that classic. There is something beautiful about that kind of lineup of musicians, or particularly guitarists. When they just stand on the front of the stage and you've got them all just standing there and they're all just playing. It's a terrific show to watch. Even now, I know I'm kind of going a little bit against my own argument, but you do get caught up in the moment because this back catalogue is so good, and because the musicians are so capable, and because you do get the impression the likes of Vince Gill, etc., are putting, it is coming from an earnest place. I get the impression he's a fan of the band, so he's got to be, right? It still feels like value for money because you're getting these songs being played back at you. And when me and Dad are sitting beside each other up in the tier and we're kind of just looking down at it, it's like we're 2 grown men now, and now we're watching the Eagles play. Like, it is still a great spectacle to make, but in the back of your head, you're kind of thinking, I know I'm not really watching them, but it is what it is, I guess.
But again, it goes back to, I can say this about a lot of bands. The music is so good, it stands on its own, and it deserves to be played. Like I said, I'm torn on this. I really am torn because I'm not going to pay what it costs to go see them now to see 3 Eagles. On a side note, few years ago, Don Felder and his solo band played in a little town about 40 miles from here.
Yeah.
And when I saw he was going to be there, I said, I might go see him because, like I said, he was my favorite musician in the band anyway. But even to see him by himself was like I think it was $180 for a ticket. I said, I'm not going to pay $180 to see one Eagle.
Well, if you wrote one of the most famous riffs of all time, I guess you can justify prices like that. You know? Yeah, absolutely. Look, but I don't know. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say the music deserves to be heard, you know, and if people are willing to pay whatever they're charging for tickets now in Vegas or, you know, wherever they're playing these days, yeah, I mean, God bless them, you know, carry on as long as you can, as long as you want to.
I'd agree with that. Even though, like I said, I'm self-aware that you know, they're going to keep going. I think they are enjoying it themselves. And when they do rock up to Dublin eventually on their farewell tour, which is probably going to go on for the next 10 years, I will be there with Dad for sure. So, you know, people like me will still fork out the money to see them because, as you said, and you're absolutely right, the back catalogue is just so good that the music is there to be listened to. Look, we've seen it. Me and you love Kiss. Kiss look like they're going to put on they're not even going to be in concert anymore. It looks like they're going to put on some sort of Avatar show, you know.
Yeah, I don't have any interest in that either.
But I don't either. But ABBA have done it, you know, like there's a degree of people will go and listen to the music, even if they know they're looking at lights and lasers on stage, simply because the catalogue is that good and they want to sing the music back at them. So I guess I don't think that wouldn't be for me, the lights and lasers thing, but for some purists of the Eagles, they wouldn't go and see the current band as it is.
You know, like I said, my original thought was, they probably need to retire, but, you know, God bless them. Carry on as long as you can.
I think we've talked ourselves out of it. I have anyway. Anyway, guys, what do you think? You know, given Mark's back on for the first time in, you know, 8 or 9 months here. So give a hello to Mark down in the comments. But more importantly, let us know what your thoughts are. Are you going to go and see the Eagles on this farewell tour? Are you a classic fan and anything beyond 1980 is toast for you? Where do you stand on it? Sure, let us know in the comments and, you know, give me a like and a subscribe there, will you? All right, cheers. Good luck.